Welcome back to Harvard. The real mystery about Mueller's questions, the 49 of them for President Trump, is who leaked them? And why now, 6 weeks after the lawyer got a hold of them from the Mueller prosecutors? As I mentioned earlier, the New York Times reported the questions were read by the special counsel investigators to the president's lawyers, who compiled them into a list. That was in March. That document was provided to the Times by a person outside Mr. Trump's legal team, according to the Times. In other words, the questions clearly came from Trump's orbit. For months now, the two sides have been negotiating a deal between Trump and Mueller to get the president to answer Mueller's questions. Well, publicly at least, President Trump has said he's willing to sit down with Mueller.
Would you still like to testify to Special Counsel Robert Mueller, sir?
Thank you. Sure. I would like to.
I would like to.
I would like to. According to the report in the New York Times, however, back in March, Trump's personal lawyer, John Dowd, advised the president not to speak to Mueller's prosecutors. But, quote, Mr. Trump signaled that he was prepared to ignore Dowd's advice and wanted to sit down with investigators. Dowd later resigned. Well, the leak of the questions also comes a week after Rudy Giuliani, the president's new personal lawyer, sat down with Mueller to discuss the possibility of an interrogation. For more on what's motivating the leak, I'm joined by Shannon Pettypiece, White House reporter with Bloomberg News, and Seth Waxman, who's a former federal prosecutor and a partner with Dickinson Wright. Seth, question: who wanted these papers out there? This is a lot of paperwork. I don't think you email it. I don't know how you do it, but that's 49 questions verbatim from the Mueller people to the president's lawyer, Dowd. This is a hell of a scoop. Who wanted it out?
Well, I think it's someone from the Trump team. And I think the reason for that is I don't think there's ever going to be a criminal trial in this case. The president sits uniquely. So I think the audience that Trump team is looking at is the American people through an impeachment proceeding, potentially if it ever gets there in Congress. And so as we as defense lawyers learn, you want to front your bad facts to your audience. So in my mind, what they've done is they have put this negative narrative out there that's in the form of these questions.
Why do the questions look bad for the prosecution?
For the prosecution, I don't think they do. I think they look bad for Mr. Trump.
Oh, okay.
And that they speak of collusion or conspiracy on the one hand and obstruction on the other. And I think it's kind of a roadmap as to what Mr. Mueller is looking at. I think they're all kind of taken from the headlines of various news publications or cable network. I don't think Mr. Mueller disclosed
Do you think
anything.
it's an alley-oop play? Do you think, Shannon, a journalist question, do you think it's an alley-oop play in basketball when you throw the ball up above the net and somebody stuffs it? Is this a case where they threw out there the 49 questions in the front page of the New York Times so the president could say, see, it's all about obstruction. There's nothing in there about collusion, which is not true. But he did attempt to put the ball in for his people, the 40-some% out there who buy his act. That's who he's talking to.
I mean, I don't know the motives, but I can tell you some of
That's what you're here for.
I'll tell you the consequences. Why don't I tell you the consequences that are happening?
Good.
And I don't think they're good for the president. It's creating distrust among the president's own legal team, among his own advisors, because things that are discussed in confidence are not being kept in confidence. It's creating distrust between the lawyers and Mueller, between Trump's lawyers and Mueller's office. Again, this feeling that they cannot talk candidly and honestly with each other because it could leak at any moment, and that inhibits the president's ability to get a fair defense. And like it or not, in this country, guilty or innocent, people are entitled to a fair defense. When the questions the prosecutor is asking the defendant are leaked early, are put out in the public, it's inhibiting his ability to get a defense. So whatever the intentions were, I don't think in the end this is going to be good for the president.
Do you think Shannon's right in saying this hurts the defense or it hurts the prosecution? One of the questions out there is whether this was an obstructive act in itself to give away these questions.
Well, I think that, on balance.
But you said, right, do you think it might be aimed at hurting it?
Well, I mean, I think the distrust that this creates, the goodwill that this breaks, because remember, in Clinton, one of the biggest things going on between Starr and Clinton was they were at each other's throats. They distrusted each other, and there's a theory that that's really what drove Ken Starr down this road of going after Monica Lewinsky, where there was such distrust among the sides that it was nuclear war. And Trump's lawyers have been fighting to prevent nuclear war from breaking out between these two sides.
Do you think it's possible they could lessen the aggressiveness of the Mueller team by being nice to them?
No, I don't think.
See, I think the Mueller people are self-animated. They took that case. Mueller took it because he thought the institution of the FBI was being abused by the president.
Well, I agree. And I think Mueller is going to continue down his path kind of unabated, whether or not Mr. Trump's team leaks information. I agree to some degree that to the extent that they are leaking information, it does kind of imbibe a little bit of mistrust. But I don't know that there's a whole lot of trust in the first place among these various parties.
Well, let's go back to the president and the lawyers' trust in president. The president's lawyers, do they trust the president to be competent as a witness? Everybody seems to say the reporting has been, the major news organizations, there's people around the president either think he's an idiot, a moron, but they all agree he's not going to be a good witness for himself. Because he can't tell the truth.
Well, I guess the most tactful way someone described it to me was that some people are built for testimony and some people aren't. You had Bill Clinton. He was a lawyer, an attorney general. His lawyer said he was an excellent person for testimony.
Except even he screwed up.
Yeah, exactly. And even in that situation, when you have a lawyer who knows this game so well, they can even step in it. The president, not someone built for testimony.
You agree?
Yeah, I do.
That seems to be the judge of the people around him. They don't think he can competently define or explain the truth. Well, if there is a truth that he knows and recognizes.
Right, that's possible. And as well, he can't seem to follow lawyers' instructions. I mean, one of the key instructions any defense lawyer would give to a client is don't talk about these things publicly. And we all have seen that he can't help himself minute by minute, let alone day by day or month by month.
He has to be right. Like his hands have to be huge. His crowds have to be huge. Everything, it's almost like huge is his word. So every answer is always going to be huge. And you go, did you? But I just think that it's an open, to me, it's an open and shut case. I mean, in the sense that, in this sense, in a non-legal sense, he wanted the Russians to help him beat Hillary, and he said so.
I mean,
Isn't
I don't
it
know his
astounding
intent.
that
I don't know. Yeah,
he said he's on national television.
Right.
Hack.
Well, and I think that's why Mueller wants to talk to him directly, because a big key of obstruction is intention and trying to prove the intention. Was their intention to obstruct? And on collusion, I mean, if there is a collusion case, was there a bigger motive conspiracy here, or was this just throwing spaghetti?
Well, what did you make of that? We're both not lawyers, right? You're not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer either. We're both not lawyers. What do you mean when the guy says to Lester Holt on national television, Lester's a complete straight-hour journalist, and he goes to him and says, yeah, I didn't like this Russia thing he was doing. Yeah, that's why I got rid of the guy.
I used to sit on wiretaps for months waiting for a statement like that. I mean, that is per se evidence of obstruction. And, you know, to have him put it out there in the public realm like that is surprising, to say the least.
Can you benefit legally by just saying, even if I committed that crime, I did it in such blatant daylight conditions, I couldn't possibly be guilty, but he is.
I've seen that play out sometimes, and it fails.
Well, and to the
I am too stupid defense does not typically work at the end of the day.
To the point you were making at the beginning, though, what is this exercise all about? Because can a president be charged criminally and prosecuted while he's in office, or is this all about impeachment? So we'll go through this whole obstruction question.
I think to answer your question with another question, the fact that Mueller isn't sure he can even subpoena him to testify. Apparently, that's why he's going through this. Can you interview me? Can you please come in? I'll give you my questions if you come in. Suggests he's not sure how much constitutional power he has with this court, by the way. It's this court, Gorsuch's court. We keep forgetting who's on that court and which side they're going to take. Anyway, thank you, Shannon. And we've learned in Gore versus Bush in 2000, the court's partisan. Thank you so much, Shannon Pettypiece and Seth Waxman. Up next,